The four horses of the book of Revelation, chapter 6. I call it the four horses instead of the four horsemen like people typically mention this, is because the horses are pretty important about this chapter. Excuse me. Yeah. Now sure, the horsemen are the riders, and the riders play a part in it, but the horses have a good description as to what's going on, and well, because people's religions blind them, they don't easily recognize what's in the writings, and that's why I'm doing this video, to help bring forth the truth that I find as I discover it. I research it, I review it, I look it over, I put it through the test. My test that I use is, I use the English version first, and from the English version I look at the Greek version. If it's a New Testament, the first words that are going to come up are Greek words, but some of them Greek words are also related to Hebrew words, and whether they're Hebrew or Greek words, they can also be related to the ancient pictograph language. So I kind of have to sort through all of it. When I find certain things that tend to stick out, I research it more in depth and I apply that test. English, Greek, Hebrew, ancient. Now, quite often I discover that there are Greek words that sound like Hebrew words, so I look at the Hebrew word that sounds like the Hebrew word, the Greek word. And then I may continue even deeper and look at the pictograph form. Sometimes I go straight from the Greek to the pictograph form, where the diction meaning of the Hebrew word doesn't have the in-depth meaning that I believe is accurate and what was trying to be shown here, or what was placed here for us to find. So a horse is a metaphor for religion. That's what the horse is. It's what a person stands on. Just like a horse rider riding a horse into battle. They stand up in the stirrups and they go into battle. It's a person's religion. It's what they stand on. That's what the horse metaphor is. Now white stands for illumination, same as the white of the shining sun. Not white like a piece of paper, a blank, bland, pale white, but a bright, shining light, white. And that's important, because that's what they're referring to. They're referring to the sun. And that's why you never hear discussion about this four horsemen and the four horses in this manner, because people feel that it leads too close to astrology. Now, I don't have any particular problems with astrology, and astrology has a lot to do with the person doing the interpretation. And that's really what it is all about. It's about interpretation and translations. If people somehow think that these scriptures came through pure, I'll call it pure, with the pure notion of what we need to know, and from thousands of years ago, and all the different people transcribing them and putting their own opinion in there, if people really think that those were pure through all those different successions, there was a lot of successions, and if people think that those things remained pure, they're only fooling themselves. Because what had happened, and there is no doubt that what had happened, was religion affected the translations of the Bible. Now, as I had mentioned before, the Hagios Bible is probably better translated as the victim's Babel. That means there are victims that are talking, that are speaking, that are scribing. Make no mistake about it, there were scribes that were victims too, okay? There were scribes that had family members that went to Holocaust also, which put pressure on them to do what it was they were told to do. But make no mistake about it, they left clues behind for us to find out what really happened. And I've been doing such a thing with quite a few scriptures recently, looking back in the book of Haggai, where Haggai is a similar name to the Hagios, and the Chag, which is the Hag, which means Holocaust, and the book of Ezra, which means to watch cut off person's head, which was about the second temple building and the ritual human sacrifice that happened. And by the way, that temple was built to a god by the name of Allah. So let's get that straight. Allah cutting off heads, the Jews building the second temple are all connected. And don't think they're not connected with the notion of the third temple. Because the Jews actually hired the builders, we should say. The Jews were actually given the money and resources to create the structure, but did they actually build the structure? Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Because, you know, as you see what's unfolding in our days and as the future unravels, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the third temple's already there. The mosque that's sitting in Jerusalem is the third temple to Allah. Okay? It's there. It's been there. It is there. They're fighting there. And, you know, ISIS is going on in Iraq and Syria now and cutting off people's heads. So, you know, all the elements are there, which is no different than the second temple time. The third temple time is going on now. They talk about, well, we got to build the third temple. We got to build the third temple. It's there. It's already there, and they're fighting and they're arguing and they're riding their horses. Okay, but what horses are they riding? That's the point. What horses are they riding? So let me continue on here for a moment. All right, we're in Revelation 6. The white stands for illumination, same as white as the shining sun. To illuminate something, to bring truth, okay? A religion of truth. The red stands for the morning sun, when a storm is coming. When a storm is coming, the sun is red in the morning when it comes up. The sky is red, the sun is red. That means a storm is coming. Black stands for a solar eclipse, when the moon shadows over the sun, where there's a balance of the sun and the moon. Even though it's not the moon, but just the shadow of the moon covering over the sun still peeks out around the sides of it. Okay? Pale stands for the hue of the moon at dusk time, which is the time of the deity of Set arriving. Now, am I saying that I agree with all the writings about Set and all the stories about Set? No, I am not saying that. They are metaphors, okay? The story of Set and Horus and Ra and all those things are metaphors. The Egyptians that wrote those things knew they were metaphors. The only people who don't know that they're metaphors are the people that are involved in these other religions that make fun of that religion. Those people don't know they're metaphors. They get all wrapped up in, oh, these people believe these are deities off in some space place. Yet they make fun and mock that, yet they themselves believe that there's some deity in some far-off space place. They're applying their own twisted thinking and applying it to a culture before them, which was not necessarily true. Now, no doubt there was a level of people that had that type of mentality, and no doubt they were the workers of the society. But the people that were not the workers of the society, the people who were in control of the society, knew that these things were just metaphors. But they also knew how the metaphors could manipulate the population. And back then is no different than today. It's happening today. There are people that are very highly educated people that actually believe this nonsense of deities in the sky, in the universe, in the ether. You know, they really believe that there's some guy that they've given these names to that exists somewhere that created everything. They really believe that. But that's the same mythical mentality that they apply to other people, that we need to look at what those other people were studying to understand what's going on. because the same thing is going on today that was going on back then. So we gotta watch who we listen to and how much we listen to them. We should listen to people to learn, but we gotta learn to decipher between reality and this fiction and mythical, magical crap. That's where we are today. We are standing on the white horse of illumination, the white horse of truth. In order to do that, we have to find it first. We don't know everything. We don't have people to teach us this stuff. We have to find it ourselves. So we have to learn how to do that. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what's going on. That, looking at the English language, looking at the Hebrew diction meanings, looking at the Greek diction meanings, reapplying those meanings if there's similar sounds between the two words to find out what was actually being conveyed, looking at the symbols, translating the symbols. This is a group effort. This is not a single. This horseman that rides the white horse is not a single person. And I'll show you that. Revelation 6:2. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he sat on him, had a bow and a crown, and was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Now that would seem like a single person, wouldn't it? And it would, because you don't know what the word bow means. And you don't know what the word bow means was because it was hidden from you. The people who translated and transcribed these things hid these meanings from you. Or you could say that somebody placed that meaning in there so that you could find it. So I'm going to show you what that meaning is. The word that was translated as bow was a Greek word, 5, 1, 1, 5. And what I did was I translated that Greek word into a pictograph form, using the pictographs like the ancient Hebrews had. Now, make no mistake about it, the people who were involved in writing these New Testament scriptures were known as the Hellenists. And the Hellenists were a combination Hebrew and Greeks. They were a mixture of the Greek culture, the Hebrew culture, the mythical notions of the Greeks, and the language of the Hebrews and the language of the Greeks. It was kind of a mixture. So it really is appropriate to look at Greek words and then take either Hebrew words where they may have come from or even the pictograph form. This is not inappropriate what I'm doing here. Now, this toxin, and toxin is the word that got translated as bow, and the rider had a toxin, and the toxin in pictograph form means group to support activity. It's a group effort. It's not a single person effort. It's a group effort. Okay, continuing on. Revelation 6:3. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse, red, and was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. I'm going to stop here for a moment and remind you. Red stands for the morning sun when a storm is coming. This is an allegory of a storm. Now see, this is a problem that we have with these writings, where there are people out there, religious leaders that are very influential to people. They're very, very influential people, and they talk about all this killing and mayhem and murder and shit. It does not have to be. It's that simple. It does not have to be. It's what they want because they're bloodthirsty, evil people, and it's that simple. They simply applied the truth, the metaphorical truth of the planets here, of the sun and the moon. If they applied the truth that was in there, there would be no notions of killing. And that, oh, well, this seal opens up and this has to happen and that has to happen. Those things will happen. Mark my words, those things are going to happen, because that's what truth brings. But it doesn't happen because of the truth. It happens because of the people hiding the truth and refusing to acknowledge the truth. That's why it happens. But those things do happen. But the truth still has to come forward, because even without the truth, the storms are coming. Even without the truth, the eclipse is coming, the death is coming. The blackness that's talked about with the black horse, and the solar eclipse, where they call it a balance coming, and the pale horse with death. Death and, where is it? Death and hell. Okay, all this killing and stuff. Those are metaphors. Again, those are metaphors for planetary actions, for the actions of the sun and the moon. And like I had mentioned, about Set, the deity known as Set, which was known as death, and every day Set fought with his brother Ra. Ra was the sun deity, Set was the moon deity, the deity of night, the deity of the underworld. So he came when night came. So that's why the association with the eclipse and the pale moon and Set. That's why these horrible things are written about, because those things are associated, but they're metaphors. In reality, these writings that we're reading are metaphors, even though that you could say that they're prophesying what's going to happen. But what's important is the reason why those things are happening, because there will be people that will be stand up that will be making those evil things happen, and they will claim to be righteous, and they're not. And they are not. Excuse me. You look at the group known as ISIS going across Iraq and Syria. They're claiming some type of righteousness. But if you look what they stand for, in the evil and wicked and nasty, vile religious aspects that they have, the way that they treat women, the way they abuse and molest children, there is nothing righteous about what they're doing. Oh, they may be used for something that happens, that can happen, that will happen, that might happen. Who knows if we get to see it? Who knows if we do or don't get to see it? But they themselves in their actions are wrong and evil. You can't sit there and say all these things have to happen because they're scripture. No, those things may happen, and there's a reason, and we have to recognize it by looking at it in truth, by illuminating what it actually is. And we will not begin to solve these problems until we can illuminate them and look at the true problem that's causing these things. Major problem. The major number one problem. The four horses and horsemen. The people's religions. The religion of death. The religion of chaos. The religion of what they call a balance. Not the truth. Not that religion, but those other three religions. The religion of chaos, the religion that they claim to be balanced, or the religion of death. Those are the problems. And they're easily identified. Why? Because they claim they have a balanced approach. This chaos, they claim they need chaos in order to straighten things out. Death, well, is death right? Is it? To go around killing everybody to convince them of something, is that right? No, not really. Sometimes killing has to be done. Yes, that's true. But it has to be done to evil people, to stop them. That's the line that we have a problem with. That's the line that everybody has a problem with. Every society has a problem with that line. Where is that line? You know, these people, even ISIS, okay, even the group ISIS, are essentially victims. They're willing participants in the evil. Hey, that has to be stopped. They're willing participants, and that has to be stopped. But they are also victims. They are also victims. They were also children at one time, and they were also brought up into the nastiness. And you know, when you're reading your Bible about a person who was born a sinner, they're not born a sinner. They were born in a sin environment. It was their environment that did it to them. And we have to make a better environment of the world. That's basically what it is. We have to make a better environment, and we have to start with the white horse of truth. I'm going to do another video going into Revelation 19, because the white horse of 19 is connected to the white horse of Revelation 6.